Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is Smart TCG, and today I'm going to be going over my deck list and tournament run on the deck that I used to get top 8 at the most recent Brisbane Regional Championships. Brisbane Regional Championships was this previous weekend, along with Gdańsk, Poland. The two regionals that happened, I was able to finish 8th place at the regional championship. So I'm going to be going over the deck list, kind of the reasonings, behind the cards. We'll go over my tournament run as well, just kind of stuff like that. And, kind of everything you need to know about Gardevoir as of right now. So with that being said, if you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you're looking for any of these cards, make sure to go check out GameGridSLC.com. You can use my code SmartTCG for 5% off on your next order. It'll be the first link in the description. But anyways, hopping into it here, I decided to play Gardevoir. This was the deck I ended up running to the tournament, getting 8th place. Had a pretty decent run with the deck, learned a lot about the deck, and really enjoyed playing it. Heading to the tournament, I was considering Mew VMAX due to the fact that it has good matchups against Entei Iron Valiant, and also Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and Teleon VMAX, along with other things like Miraidon as well, which were all kind of picking up steam. So that was a deck that I actually ended up testing quite a bit, and I had I was honestly pretty sure that I was going to play the deck. However, a lot of the top Australian players are known for playing Gardevoir, and Gardevoir does pretty good against DT Mew, which is the reason as to why I decided to move off against the DT Mew deck. I was like, it's good, but I decided that the Gardevoir matchup was pretty rough if they did set up. So I decided to move away from DT Mew and decided to go with this deck. Gardevoir is a deck that I actually have a pretty sour. I had a pretty sour taste in my mouth playing this deck in the past because I started 601 at a regional championship with it in the past and then bombed out in day 2. With it due to mostly just hitting really bad matchups and not drawing very well. But that was the last time I ended up playing it, which was Portland Regionals all the way back towards the beginning of this year. And ever since then, I kind of just canned the deck and did not play it a whole lot. However, I had a pretty good feel of the deck after playing a couple games, and I felt like, I understood the lines and stuff like that, and I ended up playing this list that, carried me all the way to the top 8. So anyways, I'm going to kind of go over the deck here. This is a Mirage Step deck. In the past, there used to be 4 Kirlias with Refinement. However, over the past couple of months, Mirage Step has become the card of choice as opposed to the 4th Refinement. Just being able to Mirage Step 3 Refinement onto the field, especially with things like Reversal, you're always falling behind, so you can take that turn off, is just super powerful. Also gaining things like Screamtail as well from the brand new set Paradox Rift was very, very good. So the Pokemon line are pretty standard, except for the one of Jirachi. That's something that people are taking in and out of the deck. Some lists play it, some lists don't. I decided to run it because of the hype of Urshifu and Teleon and Entei Iron Valiant. Those two decks, Jirachi is exceptional against because it prevents Medicham, which is really, really important. So, being able to prevent the Medicham buys you enough time in those matchups to be able to kind of establish your board state. And I actually think both of those matchups become 50-50 to maybe even slightly favorable if you have the Jirachi. And if you just get a Mirage Step off versus things like Entei Iron Valiant with a Jirachi in play, you kind of just win that matchup. So that was the reason as to why I decided to add in Jirachi. It's also good against Lost Box decks in general, which still are, roaming around as of right now. So having that Jirachi was very, very good. I decided on Lumineon, Kiara and Farah, and Jeremy Gibson got top 8 and top 4 respectively at LAIC, and they were very pro Lumineon. Lumineon is a card in Gardevoir that sometimes sees play, sometimes doesn't. It's kind of a card that is kind of controversial in Gardevoir. However, without running VIP Pass, I felt like at some point in time I needed a little bit more of an explosive start in certain scenarios, and having that Lumineon was exceptional and bailed me out repeatedly over and over again, especially when I had those, slow starts. So having the fish in the deck was absolutely fantastic and was definitely something that I enjoyed having in the deck. The one of Zacian over Luxurious Cape was the card that was heavily debated the night before. I tested with some fantastic players. Cal Connor, Stefan Tobacco, Sam Chen were the Americans that I worked with for this previous tournament on Gardevoir specifically, and we, kind of grinded out the deck. So pretty much at the time, we were pretty half and half on Luxurious Cape or the Zacian. However, Zacian's a little bit more consistent because you don't need just like, you don't need a 2-card combo. So for Zacian, you just like bench it down and you get the effect. When you're trying to one-shot with the Screamtail, you need Luxurious Cape and also the Screamtail as well. So it just was a little bit more. So that's, you know, kind of the reason as to why I decided not to play the Luxurious Cape, and then just, you know, decided to play the Zacian instead. Professor Turo's was a tech card for the control matchup. It's also just good in general. I would think I used Refinement a couple extra times with it. You can go like Refinement, then Turo's evolve into like another, you know, Kirlia, or do something like that. I think I might have used that with Ninja or something like that. But also getting things like Lumineon off the field were quite good. But Turo's is really, really good versus the control matchup. I actually played a couple. You know, control, will go into that shortly, but having that was exceptional versus that matchup. And just was a good card in general. Rest of the list here is pretty standard. Instead of playing the 3rd Fog Crystal, I played 2nd Artazon just so I can have 4 path outs, because Miraidon just won an IC. And also I thought DTMU was a really strong play for this tournament if you dodged Guardy, which, you know, oftentimes heading to tournaments, how I think is how other people think. I want to see, okay, what are the average players thinking? Or like, what are, you know, just the average Joe, you know, like that's showing up to, you know, like a regional championship thinking? Because that's actually just like really important, because the majority of players, you know, going to tournaments are oftentimes, you know, more casual players, people that, you know, might look at just, you know, the previous tournament results and that's it and stuff like that. And Mew had a pretty good showing at LAIC. So my thought was, okay, some of these path decks actually make, you know, really good play. So, you know, I want to have a little bit more of, you know, resilience. So having that extra stadium out was really, really nice for sure. And the Artazon does provide not necessarily exactly what a Fog Crystal can provide, but, you know, it does provide, you know, the ability to get a Pokemon on the bench, which is oftentimes what Fog Crystal is used for. So, yeah, that was the reasoning behind that. The reason why I didn't play VIP Pass was simply space. I wanted tech cards for Turo, Pal Pad, and also Jirachi, which with VIP Pass, it's much more difficult to add that in. So I felt like, although I might have had a little bit less explosive starts and my deck was a little bit more prone to prizing things, like if you prize, let's say like a Refinement Kirlia, it's significantly worse with this version as opposed to VIP, because oftentimes with VIP, you can get 4 Ralts on the field and then you can go like Rare Candy, and then you need just, you know, like less like Kirlias to set up. So that's, you know, something that the VIP Pass version has less space, you know, to tech for everything. However, I would say it is slightly more consistent and slightly less prone to prizing, you know, certain cards. However, this variant kind of has outs to everything, and I think that's the reason as to why I've been liking it, because you have space for Turo, you have space for Pal Pad, you have space for that extra stadium out for Path, you have that space for Jirachi as well. So that was, you know, kind of the reason as to why I decided to, you know, cut the VIP passes. But it does have, you know, its negatives and positives. So there's a good chance maybe I go back to 3 or 4 VIP pass in the future. I just kind of wanted to test it out, and it obviously worked out. So this is the list as of right now. We'll go over some of my matchups, exactly how I played them and stuff like that here. We'll go to the tournament dashboard. These are my rounds. Round 15 was top 8, and yeah, you know, we'll kind of go through it. So round 1, I hit Samir, a pretty well-known Australian player, very, very solid player. They were playing the Entei Iron Valiant deck. I don't know if they were playing the same list as Kaiwan and some of the other top Australian players, but it seemed pretty similar. Played against Samir. I missed in game 1 a crucial Mirage Step, so I just kind of got ran over. Game 2, I was able to establish much better. I actually think versus this matchup, you want to go second against them, because if you go first, it's incredibly unlikely that without a draw supporter, they get 4 Iron Valiant pings on, let's say Ralts in the active or something like that. So I think going second is most important, because as long as you can get down double or triple Ralts paired up with a Jirachi, as long as you Mirage Step, you should just win. If you pull Mirage Step off in this matchup, I think this matchup is very, very favorable. It's just making sure you do that. So the risk of going first is you get 1 Ralts on the field, they then get draw supporter, they then can just pretty much explode, and there's a higher chance they can use, you know, 3 or 4 Valiant on that very first turn when they have access to something like Professor's Research, Iono, Colorus, any of those types of draw supporters. So I ended up getting game 2, a big Iono. Entei Valiant is very, very weak to Iono, so that is something that, you know, you can utilize against them, because you're arguably the best Iono deck in the game right now. So ended up tying that. I played against Tessa Tonneson, really nice person, Brent Tonneson's sister. Very, very you know, nice to meet them. They were playing Roaring Moon with the Radiant Greninja. I ended up winning game 1. I prized, I think, Manaphy game 2, or something happened where I just drew like really bad and I conceded quickly. And then game 3, I was able to take it down in a close game for sure, being able to go 1-0-1. I played against Lincoln. Lincoln, I believe, was playing DT Mew. I got pretty lucky in game 3. I got Luxorade and then top decked I think a turn later into a Mirage Step. I actually got Luxray into a dead hand except for Boss, but I bossed Genesect and it bricked them. And then I top decked Mirage Step. So I got pretty lucky against Lincoln. I won game 1 pretty convincingly, and then game 2 I didn't have a great setup, and then game 3 I got Luxray and got bailed out by the top deck, but was able to get DT Mew there. I played against Riley, who was playing, I believe they were playing Tina. The Tina matchup, if you get Jirachi Manaphy down, it's a pretty good matchup overall, because they can't really do a whole lot. Like they can't take, like a lot of extra prize cards with things like Sableye because they can't Sableye. So the only way they're taking 2 prizes easily is with things like Giratina, and then you can, Shining Arcana, KO them or Zacian them. You have Professor Tauros as well, so if they don't knock you out, you can Tauros, and you also got the 4 Stadium out, which is really nice against those heavy Path of the Peak deck. So was able to win that to advance up to 401. Feeling pretty good about my tournaments. I play against Hung. I apologize if I butchered that. Very, very nice person. From what I saw, they ended up playing Miraidon. They didn't set up great both games. Game 1, they dead drew pretty hard, or they just didn't get going. And then I think game 2, they missed a couple generators. Pretty much the Miraidon matchup is if you get Mirage Step off before Iron Hands, you pretty much just win the game. So they have to Iron Hands take prizes before you Mirage Step. So that's important. A cool play that you can make against them if you do get turn 1 Iron Hands is you'll get turn 1 Iron Hands, and then you Mirage Step, they Iron Hands you again down to 2. So it's 6-2. It looks kind of unwinnable in some ways, but it's actually not. What you can do is you can promote a Gardevoir EX, counter catcher up Mew, Iono them to 2, and then Miracle Force the active. Because if they're committing all this time onto powering up the Iron Hands, then they don't necessarily have the capabilities to follow that up with something like a Raichu KO. So if you KO that Mew and they miss boss's orders and they just smack you for 120, that Gardevoir, you can then retreat the Gardevoir, go into Shining Arcana, and then Iono them and blow that up. And then you can actually make a 6-2 prize card comeback that way. So you want to counter catcher up that Mew to prevent them from drawing more cards, to potentially find that boss's orders, or that way to, Raichu KO. So that's pretty important as well. I played against the next round at 501, Harry Chakras, which ended up being the winner of the tournament. A pretty well-known online player by the name of Alpaca of Alpacas, was oftentimes performing well in online tournaments. So it was actually cool to meet them in real life. Super nice person. And I ended up 2-0ing them in the Gardevoir mirror. I went second twice, actually, but I actually hadn't put a ton of time into the Gardevoir mirror match, so I kind of just learned it on the fly. And I was able to win. I think that Avery is really, really important. Avery, and then waiting to see if you need a Cresselia or Cram based off if they get rid of Jirachi or Manaphy, if they get rid of those. Counter catcher was really, really important because I fell behind as well. And yeah, no, I was kind of just able to take over and was able to see some success. So 601, feeling pretty good. Already locked for day 2. Going against Hayden Matthews, playing a pretty cool Charizard Bavaro variant with Colress's Experiment and a Cramorant teched into the deck as well. Ended up drawing pretty abysmally versus Hayden, just was not really able to get going, and lost the set 0-2. Versus Jack Underwood, a very nice person. They got 17th, I believe, in the tournament. They ended up playing Cloth. And I learned very quickly that Cloth is almost an auto win, because you can attack with a Gardevoir EX, and there's not really a whole lot that they can do. They can 2-shot you, but if you just go Turo and then Pal Pad back Turo, you just swing the price straight so far in your favor. There's not a whole lot that they can do. So I was able to beat Cloth. Jack, super nice person though, from what I met. Seemed very, very nice and friendly, and they got 17, so they did pretty good. Hayden Matthews, again, round 10, I was 7-1-1, feeling pretty good about my, start, and hit Hayden. Once again, I drew terrible in game 1, did not really set up at all. Game 2 was closer. I got really, really close, except off an Iono, I missed some pieces, which I weren't likely to hit, and I unfortunately lost 0-2 again. So, yeah, that was also kind of rough. Oh, I think I might have missed this round. Round 5, I played against Control. I actually should mention this. The Control matchup, you pretty much just, you either go like Lone Zacian and like 1 or 2 bench things, or you completely fill up your bench with, things that can attack. But anyways, we'll go into that in round 11. Round 11, I hit James Williams, one of the stronger Australian players, very, very successful. Got top 4 at OCIC 2020, I think, right before COVID happened. And everything shut down. Very, very solid player, nice person as well. They ended up playing Snorlax Stall. Kind of as I said, typically how you want to play this matchup is if you can start Lone Zacian and just kind of be like, and just kind of hit with that for a couple times, that's great. But you need to be really careful because you don't want things like Manaphy to hit the board, things like Radiant Greninja to hit the board, things like Lumineon, because those can get stuck in the active. Yes, you have Turos, but that's easier said than done, to find that card. So oftentimes you want your board to be a Zacian, and then let's say 4 Ralts and a Cresselia or a Screamtail, something like that, because you want everything on the board to be able to actually do something if it gets counter-catchered up. So in game 1, I think I made a small mistake. I think I early game bossed when I probably didn't need to. I also prized in my last 2 cards, Collapsed Stadium and Pal Pad, which I think if I had both of them, I should have won the game anyways, despite, I think, making a small error. So yeah, I ended up losing game 1, and then in game 2, they just got a really good setup. I did not get a perfect setup, and some things kind of didn't go my way, but overall, I think the matchup was close with Turo Pal Pad. I think it's about 50-50, maybe slightly favorable, if you're able to, get the right things in the discard pile and stuff like that, thin things out properly. I actually think I started Greninja this game. Yeah, and I think I started Greninja this game, I think. So I had to Turo early on, I believe. So yeah, that was the problem, I think, is I think I had to Turo early on. So yeah, just a couple things went wrong in that set. Game 1, I definitely could have won, but terrible prizing. And then I think I started Greninja or something like that in game 2. So anyways, I'm 7-3-1. I'm not feeling great after 7-1-1, losing the first 2 rounds, but I ended up playing against another control, played significantly better versus them, drew a little bit better, had, less concerning prizing and stuff like that, and I was able to beat Stefan, very nice person, playing control. Round 13, I hit my second Miraidon of the tournament. This one was the Turbo Iron Hands with no path. I ended up getting them 2-0. They missed a lot of generators, and I was able to Mirage Step before a Iron Hands, and if you do that, you pretty much, as I said, just win the matchup most of the time. So was able to win that game. I'm going up to 9-3-1, and then I played against Callum Walker, who was playing DTE Mew. Super nice person, ended up getting the first game. They drew pretty poorly. They actually locked themselves also out with a path, and I was able just to manually power up a Gardevoir EX and just start hitting for 190. So that ended up being pretty good for me. And then game 2, I was able to double reversal KO a Mew VMAX, which was pretty sick. So that was kind of the highlight of that game, being able to reversal KO the Mew VMAX. So anyways, that was the matchup versus Callum. I think the DT matchup is really, really close. I think that you are slightly favored, 55-45, maybe 60-40 if you go first. But yeah, the matchup is definitely close because things like Judge Path, Box a Disaster, even things like Grabber can cause issues if they play it, and they can stifle your setup. But as long as you get Mirage Step up, on that turn 2, you should be okay. Round 15, also top 8 versus Hayden. Once again, round 3 versus Hayden after losing multiple times versus them. I ended up losing once again. A very, very close set. Game 1, I drew terribly again and was not able to set up. Game 2, I drew pretty poorly but got bailed out. I think I got a memory skip to stick for 1 turn, which completely turned the tides, and I made a massive comeback in the game. They started missing Zards, and I finally came back. They weren't drawing as well as they had in some of the other games, and I was able to capitalize. Game 3 was a insane game. Very close. I get my Mirage Step set up. Things are going well. I get put in a situation where their board is Charmeleon because they missed for a turn. So their board was Charmeleon, Bidoof, Charmander. So in this situation, I needed a way to KO the Charmeleon and also do it with a Pokemon that had a decent amount of HP. So something that couldn't be, let's say, KO'd by something like maybe Radiant Charizard or something like even like a Charmeleon hit or just something that couldn't be KO'd. So I went all in. I counter-catchered up the Charmeleon, went into Gardevoir EX, and then Iono Miracle Forced. And basically said you have to find Rare Candy Charizard off 3 in the draw for turn, and they top decked the Rare Candy. Their hand was pretty much dead. It was Boss's Orders, Escape Rope, and then Charizard, and they top decked the Rare Candy, unfortunately, and my board state kind of fell apart, and I wasn't able to, get that. I wasn't able to respond properly, and I unfortunately lost. But I think the matchup was close. They do play double Vengeful Punch as well, which was really, really annoying for me to deal with. So ended up being a tough matchup, but I think it's very winnable. You just have to draw relatively well. But anyways, got top 8 with Gardevoir here. Finished pretty well, obviously, in the tournaments. I can go over to the standings here. Harry was able to win the tournament, so it was really cool to, play against them, in the Gardevoir mirror in day 1 and then see them win the tournament. We had Haru Nishikawa here, who played a pretty interesting Charizard list here. And then Hayden, this was the really cool list that I played against. It was the Colress engine instead of the Arven, and played heavy Rare Candy, pretty cool, and double Vengeful Punch. And yeah, anyways, that's going to do it for today. As I said, got top 8, which was pretty cool. So just kind of wanted to run over the deck, the reasonings behind some of the cards and stuff like that, and why I chose, some of the counts. I will actually also mention one other card. I think someone will maybe ask this. The reason why I played 4 Ultra Ball and 2 Fog as opposed to 3 Fog, 3 Ultra is because you need outs to get Greninja and Manaphy a lot of the time, and with only 3 Ultra Ball, you will oftentimes miss that. And also, those Ultra Balls were really nice just to get Gardevoir more frequently, and things also like Shining Arcana Gardevoir as well. So both the Gardevoirs as well, being able to grab them was really, really nice, which you can't do with something like Fog Crystal. But anyways, that is going to do it for the video. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll be in Stuttgart, Germany this next coming up weekend, not this weekend, the next weekend, for their regional championship. So if you see me, make sure to say hi, and then I'll be in San Antonio the week after. So anyways, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks for all the support as always. If you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll have my deck list in the description, and then also I will have like the Brisbane results and stuff like that. But anyways, thanks so much for so many of you guys cheering me on, and I will speak with you again soon. All right, see ya.